All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the school committee meeting. Today is Monday, March 2nd. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, April 6th, here at the Senior Center. Tonight's game plan is as follows. We will salute our flag. We will then have a moment of silence for our veterans. Clerk will call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. And then we will get into this evening's agenda. First, with approval of the minutes, and then if there's no objection, we're going to take a couple of items out of order. First being the 2020 Massachusetts Partnerships for Youth, Inc. Respectfully Poster Project, followed by Freedom New Hampshire Nature's Classroom Ferryway Field Trip. We will then return to public comment. Then we'll go back to our superintendent for a series of updates, then down to subcommittee reports and discussions, motions and resolutions, personal privilege, and then there will be a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations, as well as an update on pending litigation. And then we will move adjournment. So are there any questions? Hearing none, I'd ask everyone to please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. We'll now have the clerk call the roll. Here.
Mr. Belder?
Here.
Ms. Luong?
Here.
Mr. Drummy?
Here.
Mr. Froyo?
Here.
Mr. Iovino?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Pettifora?
Here.
Superintendent O'Terry?
Here.
Student Representative Tweedy?
Here.
All right, so we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. We'll now proceed to tonight's agenda. As I mentioned, let's first take up approval of the minutes. First, regular session from February 3rd. Motion by Mr. Iovino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions after everybody's had a chance to look at them? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Executive session minutes of February 3rd. Motion by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. Iovino. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, so as we mentioned, we are now going to skip over public comment for just a moment in order to take up two items under the superintendent's report. Let me go to the superintendent, who will introduce them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we would like to congratulate Lee Nguyen, a fifth grade student from the Ferryway School, who won the 2020 Massachusetts Partnership for Youth Poster Project. The theme was respectfully, and there were 34 entries at the middle school level. And Lee was the winning entry in that. Her advisor and our teacher is Ms. Joan Ortu. So we have with us this evening Ms. Margie Daniels, who's the Executive Director of Massachusetts Partnership for Youth, and Mr. Tony Parentozzi, who's the President of the Massachusetts Partnership for Youth. I'd like to invite them to the podium to say a few words. And if you look over to my left, there is Lee's winning poster.
Thank you very much, Superintendent O'Terry and members of the Malden School Committee. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight to make this wonderful award. I think to have a fifth grade student win the middle school division of our poster project really speaks to her great talent. She did a fabulous job. As Superintendent O'Terry said, this Respectfully campaign was our 2019-2020 poster project. We're a small nonprofit organization dedicated to prevention and intervention in matters of health and safety for youth, and we have this contest every year. And respectfully, which is our theme, had to do with healthy relations characterized by respect, honesty, and open communication. And this came from Lieutenant Governor Polito's initiative, which she did in partnership with the Executive Office of Health and Human Services and the Massachusetts State Legislature. So we're very, very pleased, we're very, very pleased to be here tonight to give this award. And I want to introduce Tony Parentazzi, who is the former superintendent of the Somerville Schools, currently the superintendent of the Nahant Public Schools, and he's also the president of Massachusetts Partnerships for Youth.
Okay.
Thank you, Margie. And I will get right to the best part of this evening for me, and that's to present the award to Lee. And it is my great pleasure, Lee, to present you on behalf of the entire Board of Directors of the Massachusetts Partnerships for Youth this award.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very nice to get a certificate, but I also have a gift for you.
All right. So what we're going to do now is go down and congratulate and take a picture, if that's okay with you. Sure. All right. That'll be awesome. School committee will be in a brief recess.
Somebody be in charge. Hi, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, believe. Oh, yeah, please do. It's a hard thing. I'm like, how you feeling? I'm doing Patience grasshopper.
All right, everybody, let's see if the superintendent can top that.
I can't top that, but I will bring up Principal Sepulveda right now for presentation on the Nature's Classroom for the Ferryway School proposed field trip.
Okay.
So if I could have Mr. Sepulveda and Ms. Cheryl McDonough to the podium to provide more details about the trip, which is scheduled for the first week in May.
First week in May, all right.
Good evening, members of the board, and again, congratulations to Lee Nguyen. And they were just telling me that they have to leave because English is limited for them, and they said that they wouldn't understand the rest of the meeting, and I don't blame them. They went with our blessings, and it goes to show you that it doesn't matter where our kids come from, they are Malden. And it doesn't matter if mom, dad, are not proficient in English, they are proud, and so are we. And how amazing is that? And this is about them. This is about our kids. So, Ferryway used to go to Nature's Classroom at the beginning of the year 2000 and so, and then they actually took a long hiatus from attending. Once I was named the principal, I talked to the sixth grade teacher, Kelly Swanson, who said, I would love to bring it back. And I said, let's do it. Ms. Swanson, unfortunately, will not be able to join us. She's recovering from surgery, and we send her our love and all our best wishes. However, we have Ms. McDonough with us, who is also a science teacher at the Ferryway School. She teaches science in grade 8, and she has participated in both of the field trips in the past 2 years as a chaperone. Ms. McDonough, would you like to tell us more about the trip?
Absolutely. And I should also tell you that I've gone on Nature's Classroom before I came to Ferryway, and have been at different ones. And the particular Nature's Classroom that they go to is one of the better of all of the different programs. Students are given the opportunity to go. There is a fee. However, we've been able to get scholarship money, so that's not an issue for the children. And it is a really intense program because we bring them up there Monday morning and don't bring them back to Friday. And in fact, last year, it was an early release day, and the kids did not care that they didn't come back for the early release, that they were there till the end. It provides a program where from the morning the time they get up in the morning, they go in, have breakfast, and even their breakfast is an education about where their food comes from. And then they have classes. They have structured classes that the instructors there teach. And the chaperones, the teachers, actually play kind of the role of the parents for the week, which is quite interesting. They take their classes. We do some PD time as teachers. We get to witness their classes, some of them, and spend some time. The kids come back. They have a rec time. And it's unfortunate that we weren't able to have some children come tonight. We've had them come in the past. They really love it. A lot of them said, oh, I wish I could go and explain it, because it's really a terrific program. They even have classes at night, and they never complain about it. They enjoy it. It's a very interactive classroom. Besides the science that they learn, and I am very pleased, being a 7th grade and 8th grade teacher, I can refer back to it, and they go, oh yeah, I remember that. And even the children that don't go hear the stories so that they can teach and share what they learn on the program. And they even have a night class, and it also gives them an opportunity for social emotional growth, to get to know other students, and us as teachers to really get to know the children better. So I would definitely be happy to answer any questions that you have. But
Question?
Yes.
I wonder, when is it going to be?
Oh, so it's the first week in May, and we're very fortunate having it the first week of May because the weather's much nicer. And the last 2 years, and this year as well, we're going to be attending with the same school that we have in the past. So we've developed a relationship, a working relationship with them. So there's one other school that's there when we're there.
All right, there you have it. So let's take some questions from the committee. First off, Superintendent, you obviously support.
Yes.
Recommend.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I think we've heard from other schools the benefits of this, least of which is sort of the team building camaraderie. I think that these students learn to rely and respect one another much better than we do in the classrooms in our schools. I think this is a great opportunity for bonding, but really being immersed in nature, which we don't necessarily have an opportunity to around here as much.
All right, what say you? Mr. Drummy.
No, I'm. 3 of my children went, and I've been to Camp Cody myself, even though I'm not a child. And really, the kids do have a good time there. And my kids still talk about it, and they're in there. They're old now. Let's leave it at that. But they will have a good time. So I'd just like to make the motion that we accept it.
All right, let's get it properly up, and then we'll go to Mr. McCarthy. So Mr. Drummy moves. Who seconds it? Mr. Weldy, for purposes of discussion. Now over to Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. What's usually the best part for the kids? What do they enjoy during the actual trip?
That's a real tough question because different children say different things. Some of them have really meaningful conversations,
right.
and that's the best part, is getting to know someone. I personally think the best part is that most of their classes are outdoors, and we don't get to do that as teachers.
Excellent, yeah.
So they're really able to ask a lot of questions, but other kids like the rec time that is worked with the instructors, so they can kind of, ask about personal questions about what the instruction was without being in that class environment. So,
excellent. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Anybody else? Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Why the full week? Just we've had other schools that have come before us, and they've done anywhere from 3 to 4 days, so 5 days. Is there added educational experience? I mean, that we're getting, you did say that the kids, full 5 days, they had a blast, no complaints. Just, is there a different curriculum that's based on the 5 days?
So the curriculum itself is actually more holistic, and there's greater enrichment if you do the full week. You get the same benefit if you do 3 days or 4 days, but if you have the chance to do that 5th day, where by the 3rd day they have already gotten into the groove of, now you cannot stay up all night, because you're going to be working, and by that Thursday they are already in that groove. So we want to take full advantage of that. So that's why we added that 5th day, and the curriculum is still rigorous enough for them.
Is there a price difference in choosing the 5 days? And if so, is it significant?
We got a good discount, actually. Last year it was $250, and this year it's $260.
Includes transportation.
Including transportation. So the difference in pricing is not that much.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to address a slight, in my opinion, elephant in the room. I'd like to ask what sort of health care services and oversight is going to be accompanying these children, only because we have a sort of a developing situation in the country right now. And by the time this project rolls around in late May, we don't know what the situation is going to be. Have you thought about contingency plans, or how you're going to deal with healthcare situations during this trip? So
first, let me address the healthcare situation. There's a full-time registered nurse on campus. They are 24/7. Not the same person at times, because they have to take a break, and they have to. We want someone that is actually fully there. So they have registered nurses on campus. We also have hospitals. To a couple of hospitals at close distance to Camp Cody, and in the packet that I shared with the school committee, you have that information there as well. When looking at the potential pandemic, looking at the COVID-19 or the coronavirus, I would rely on the public officials, on the information that we have, any updates, and at the end of the day, of course, we'll go by safety and what's best for our kids. So even if we have committed ourselves to going on the trip, if come May or late April, let's say, and we have a situation where there's a full pandemic, we will actually cancel the trip. But that's a conversation that we'll have with Superintendent Oteri and Mayor Christensen. But that's a great question.
Yep. 1 second, Mr. Gray. Superintendent?
Sure. I think Mr. Gray's question, we'll address that in my update around the coronavirus. But we are monitoring this on a daily basis. I've been in daily contact with Director of Public Health, Chris Webb in the city, as well as the emergency management team. So we're following the guidelines of the CDC and the State Department of Public Health with all of our trips. And we will address that later in my report with an upcoming trip. But we're really monitoring this because it is unfolding really hour by hour. So right now, the risk is very low in Massachusetts, but we are really exercising all the preparedness, really keeping a close watch on this with our public officials. So we'll continue to follow their guidelines and guidance on this.
Okay. Is that good, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we now have addressed those two items that we wanted to at the outset. Now let's return to the regular docket, which item number 2 is public comment. Anybody wishing to address the school committee can do so now. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record, and please keep your remarks to a minimum. No more than 3 minutes. Good evening.
Amy Friedman, 8 Marvin Street. I have 2 children in the two children in Malden Public Schools. One attends the BB school, the other attends the high school. They've both attended the BB school for the past 2 years. My son Henry, who's at the BB school now, is a special ed student. He's in a substantially separate classroom. And I have 3 concerns. The first is the traffic around the BB school. I think we need to do a traffic study to determine how to solve the problems around that school. Frankly, it's unsafe for all the children, but I have a heightened concern because my child's handicapped. He lacks some awareness as far as safety goes, and there's parents that are just dropping their children off in the lane of traffic. People aren't really adhering to the rules related to parking. There needs to be a lot more enforcement around the school, but I think a traffic study is necessary to figure out how to solve the safety issues around the BB school. There's a lack of handicap parking at the BB school. I've been fighting this battle for about 1.5 years now. I feel like I've gone through all the different levels to try and get this addressed, and it's still not addressed. There's also not a compliant handicap loading and unloading zone at the BB school. I know this is something that can be addressed because there's other schools that have marked handicapped loading and unloading zones. So I feel the handicap parking and the handicap loading and unloading zones, the school is not in compliant with 521 CMR. It's not in compliance with the ADA, and it's causing real issues there, safety issues for our children. I think I'm frustrated because I have worked so hard and so long to try and solve this, and it's just fallen on deaf ears. And frankly, I hate to be in this position. I was a lawyer for 25 years, and I know that this school's resources are better spent putting our heads together and solving this problem rather than me suing the city and suing the school district for not complying with the law. So let's figure out how to solve the problem. Let's not waste our resources in lawsuits. I'm at that point, so I'm coming to you before that happens because we need to solve the problem. The other issue is busing. It would be simpler to put my son on a bus every day, and I've tried that, but we had an incident that occurred where he had kind of a meltdown when I put him on the bus at my home. My observations from trying to get him on the bus is there was not a monitor on the bus with the driver. The school district has said that there was. I followed the bus to the school and immediately went to the principal's office and asked to see the video from the bus. First, I was told by the principal, Dr. Murphy, that there is no video surveillance on the bus. I later found out that there was video surveillance on the bus, and we're keeping that video for 48 hours. That's not in compliance with the law. Records retentions laws require that you keep that for 30 days. But these are disabled, lots of them nonverbal children. So it's going to take time for us to figure out if one of our children is having a problem on the bus. And we're not going to see that problem on the video if you're destroying the video after 48 hours. So we need to get in compliance with the law related to how long that video is being retained so that we can assure that if there's an issue, we can look at that video and figure out how to solve the problem. I'd ask that the school committee look into these three things. A traffic study around the Beebe School, how to solve the safety issues for pedestrians and children around that school, whether our schools are compliant with 521 CMR and the ADA related to handicap access, handicap parking, drop-off and pickup areas, and that the school makes sure that it is retaining video on these buses for our special ed students for at least 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Superintendent O'Terry, members of the school committee, and citizens of Malden, and thank you for taking time to listen to my concerns. My name is Susan Whitney, and I have been a paraprofessional for 24 years in the city of Malden. Think about 24 years of serving our children in Malden, what a difference I have made in the community and to the lives of thousands of students in Malden. I cannot count the amount of times that I have come across a former student that has thanked me for helping them get through a difficult time, for helping them pass a class, or for simply being someone they could talk to. As paraprofessionals, we, alongside the teachers, help shape the future of these children. We are an intricate part of public education. Our schools could not function without us, yet we are paid far less than what we are worth. We are paid at or near poverty level. This has to change. Our roles and expectations in the classrooms have increased. Students' needs have changed drastically. While rent and basic life necessities has consistently risen each year, our pay scales remain stagnant. Many paraprofessionals in the city are working second jobs just to get by. That usually means working late nights away from their families just so they can provide for them. Then waking up the next day, drinking an extra cup of coffee, putting on a smile, and helping for our students to succeed. You ask why we voted against a 3% pay increase. 3% of the maximum paraprofessional salary would be about $20 a week. That's before taxes. That does not nearly come close to covering the cost of living in Malden or nearby communities. Never mind living a somewhat comfortable life. I would ask you to consider an increase to the base salary to a livable wage, with increases coming with each step. I leave you tonight with an open invitation to come to any time unannounced to observe what we do in the classroom. I can guarantee in most instances you will not know who is who, paraprofessional or teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Glasses off, I can't see. Sorry, no bifocals. Good evening. My name is Susan Nyland. My address is 10 Clayton Street in Malden. I'm here tonight in solidarity with my fellow Malden Public Schools paraprofessionals who are seeking a fairer, more fair contract than the one offered last year. First of all, I would like to impromptu ask anyone here wearing red, especially paraprofessionals, to please stand up. Thank you so much. I can confidently say that we deserve better for all that we do to help care for and educate our city's children. I am currently in my 16th year as a Malden Public School paraprofessional. My entire career has been in substantially separate rooms in severe special needs. I want to start by saying I love my job. Is it challenging, demanding, physically and at times emotionally draining? You bet. That's what I love about it. What do I not love? Number one, salaries. I would like to know how many of our current school committee members know that paraprofessional salaries are currently capped at 10 years. That means that after year 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc., you don't earn any more money than you did at year 10. I want to recognize at least 6 members of our paraprofessional team who have been here for more than 20 years. Would you please stand up? These paraprofessionals, applause is wonderful, but what we need is financial compensation. Many of us are mothers who started off in this job because the hours were a godsend. We had young children. It was wonderful to be able to work a full-time job and earn some extra money, being able to stay home with our children during school vacations and summer vacation. But now that most of us are older, that's little compensation. I appreciate the applause, but what we are here tonight to demand from you is that you look with serious scrutiny at what our current pay scales are. Any of you, I would challenge to ask yourselves, would you be willing to stay at your current job for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years with no salary increase? I imagine your answer would be no. So my question to you is, why do you expect that of us? I digress. I'm going back to my notes. Sorry. I also would like to ask, how many of you currently on the school committee are aware that we still currently have in our official language a column designating paraprofessionals as not highly qualified? That refers to a colleague and best friend of mine who has 5 years more seniority than me. She has been doing this job. Gloria Rendon, stand up. Gloria Rendon has been doing this job with love and dedication for 20 years, and she is still in the column of not highly qualified. Why? Because she finished high school. She doesn't have an advanced degree. Gloria Rendon could train incoming teachers on how to work with our students in severe special needs. I wonder, and I challenge you on this committee to ask yourselves how you can justify that we continue to have a separate pay scale column for teachers such as my friend and colleague, Gloria Rendon, with 20 years experience, that she deserves the lowest pay grade because she doesn't have more than a high school diploma. I'm almost done. I would echo my former paraprofessional's comments, Mrs. Whitney, to invite and encourage any members of this committee to visit our classrooms any day, unannounced, especially our sub-separate rooms at the Early Learning Center, at Salemwood, at Forestdale, at Linden, at Ferryway, to see what we do on a daily basis to not only care for the safety and security of our students, but ensure that they get an equitable education. We are not there to be babysitters. Our job is to assist our lead teachers in ensuring that our students get, as they are legally entitled to, an equitable education, despite the conditions in which they present themselves to us. If any of the current members of the school committee wonder why the contract offer was rejected, I am here to tell you that it was because we felt demeaned, disrespected, and demoralized. We help care for and educate some of our most involved and needy students. And we do it day in and day out with love and compassion. We ask that you honor our work with a more fair and equitable contract. In closing, I'm almost done, I would encourage all of you to please make the time to visit our schools, visit our classrooms, spend time with us so you can hopefully understand what we do day in and day out, why it's so difficult for us to take 15 minutes for a break, or a half an hour for lunch, or 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. We give up these contractually guaranteed rights because of our concern for the safety and well-being of our students. My hope is that if this happens, positive change may be on the horizon. Thank you.
All right, anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Good evening, Mayor Christensen, Superintendent O'Terry, and members of the Malden School Committee. I'm Deb Gesualdo, a proud public school educator, proud president of the Malden Education Association, and a proud member of the Massachusetts Teachers Association. I stand before you this evening, just 1 month before Malden's Student Opportunity Act plan is due into Commissioner Riley at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. As we all know, the Student Opportunity Act, or SOA, as many of us call it, was signed into law in November. SOA is a major victory for public school communities and for racial and economic justice. When the new law is completely phased in, annual state funding for our public schools in Massachusetts will increase by $1.5 billion. For us here in Malden, it could mean somewhere between $20 and $25 million more in funding over the next 7 years. It's almost hard to wrap your mind around that. It's a lot of money. This funding is crucial because for years our district has been left behind by the state's outdated and inequitable funding system. By now, I'm sure you've had the chance to review the responses to the survey the district conducted, and you've had a chance to read the report that the Malden Education Association submitted and asked to be distributed to the members of the school committee. I hope that the voices of all stakeholders are taken to heart in the plan that is voted on and subsequently submitted to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that we can begin to create justice in our education system for our students. Immigrant communities and communities of color have been left behind for too long. Let's all work together to create the schools our students deserve. Now, you know I'm not going to stop there. I would also like to acknowledge all of the educators who are here tonight, in particular our education support professionals who are here in plentiful abundance. Our paraprofessionals are crucial members of our school community. Often, the first people parents and students see in the morning and the last people they see in the evening at pickup from after-school programming are our paraprofessionals. Because of the work our teachers and education support professionals do together in our classrooms, pre-K to 12 here in Malden, our students are able to get the services and instruction that they need. We look forward to getting back to the bargaining table within the next couple of weeks to bargain a fair contract that brings economic justice for our hardworking paraprofessionals who are a vital part of our vibrant school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee? Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Public comment remains open. Okay, hearing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Now let's drop down to the superintendent's report, where we already addressed items 1 and 2. So we'll now hear from the superintendent about the Student Opportunity Act plan, bullying prevention plan, Sandy Hook update, and then district updates and highlights. Superintendent O'Teary.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We received some feedback from many different stakeholders in the community regarding how and where the funds for the Student Opportunity Act should be prioritized to create the most positive impact for our students. At this time, I'm going to do a brief PowerPoint presentation. So if we could adjourn back to view that on the Student Opportunity Act.
Okay, let's step down.
Perfect. Hey, good evening and thank you, everyone. As part of the Student Opportunity Act, which became law in November of 2019, this past November, this updated the Chapter 70 formula. This is the first of a 7-year phase-in project of money that is meant to close achievement gaps and meant to level the playing field. We are required, as part of the law, to present a plan to the commissioner by April 1st. Prior to that, we need to present an overview of our plan to the school committee. So there's a template that we will be working on that is required for the commissioner's office by April 1st. But prior to that, we had to do a number of requirements, one of which was to solicit stakeholder input, which we did in a number of ways, and I'll go through that. The Student Opportunity Act, this was a slide that I had in the February presentation when we began our town hall meeting prior to the school committee meeting. The act was intended to increase revenues to support districts, and what the Department of Education is requiring us to do is use evidence-based strategies and programs to close those gaps. So we listed them here. It was expanding early childhood programming, expanding pathways to strengthen career and college readiness, professional development, expanded learning time, increasing opportunity for common planning time, social services to support social emotional health, hiring additional school personnel to support student performance, purchase of curriculum and materials, and diversifying educator and administrative workforce. These were all the categories in which they said we could use our funding to support. So as I stated, part of the requirements of the Student Opportunity Act were to solicit stakeholder input, make a presentation to our school committee in the month of March, and advise the school committee, and then having motion to go forward with this plan, and then submit the district plan. We are a district that is receiving over $1.5 million additional dollars in Chapter 70 funding, so we are required to do the long form template. We were also informed by the Department of Education on Friday that because we are in our 2.1 is not one of the higher end ones, we do not have to do the budgetary requirement of that, but we will be required to do the long form comment. Template rather. This will be presented to Commissioner Riley's office electronically by April 1st. So this is coming from the state themselves, the Student Opportunity District Plans, and they advise us to just present this, that it will produce, the department will come up with the templates, which they did a week or so ago, and these templates address all the legal requirements that were embedded within the bill, within the law. The district plan should focus on the evidence-based programs to be implemented and how the funding will be spent to reduce the disparities. Shorter form districts, which we're not, they have those districts that are receiving less than $1.5 million do a shorter form. The template will not ask for comprehensive strategic plans. What they advised us to do is to do a few things well. They said 3, 4, or 5 things they would focus on, not all 11 of the categories that they had, but really just as a district kind of prioritize and focus on that. As some of it, you can see some overlap within the categories of how you can address multiple initiatives and needs. And then they asked to identify priorities. Ideally, will be built on the district's improvement plan and initiatives, and we're in the midst of producing that plan right now, the strategic plan for the district. We had a number of stakeholder engagement opportunities. One was a town hall forum here on February 3rd, prior to the school committee meeting, where we announced that the online survey would be open, which it was through February 26th. We had it available in 5 languages. We received over 250 online survey input from a variety of stakeholders, from parents and guardians, educators, students, as well as community members. We had a number of surveys that came in the written form, and then we received a list of sort of areas, not necessarily category-based, as a result of the Student Opportunity Signing Act that was held at Malden High School Gallery on Wednesday of last week. So we asked our stakeholder surveys to questions based on the evidence-based programs. We had our respondents rank those from low priority, which is a 1, to high priority, which was a 4. We, as I said, had over 250 respond to the survey. We had an additional 100 comments come in to the survey, and we will use these survey results as a way in which we prioritize over the next 3 years. So the plan that we submit on April 1st is a 3-year plan. It will be updated, I think, annually, but this will serve as a blueprint over the 3 years. So in fiscal year 20, we received $51,206,223. What we will receive in Chapter 70 funding for the upcoming year is $53,370,630 million. So it's about it's a $2.164 million increase. This will allow us to continue to maintain the current level of servicing that we have, ensure that there are no layoffs, and target some of the critical needs that we've identified. So the survey results, what we did was we took all 11 of those categories, and I just had them rank ordered here for the ones with the highest percentage that were ranked 3 or 4. So our top 5 categories, the first one was to increase social services support for social, emotional, and physical health. Almost 88% of our respondents had that ranked as number 3 or number 4, so the highest priorities. Closely behind that were hire additional teachers to reduce class sizes. Again, that would fall back into that original category of hiring school personnel to support student performance. Again, it doesn't say that specifically, but that's the overall goal. By hiring more teachers, lower class size, evidence out there suggests that that will lead to higher student achievement. The third highest ranked category in 3s and 4s was increasing our professional development funding to ensure that teachers have the training that are needed to do the best instruction and best support our teachers. That was a little over 79%. Not too far behind that was additional funding for college and career readiness, strengthening the college and career readiness in our district. And then our fifth ranked category, which again was almost 3/4 of the people had ranked as a number 3 or 4 priority, was to buy additional curriculum materials. Rounding out that, and we see kind of a marked drop off from those top 3 categories. We're increasing for common planning time for teachers. 65% had diversification of the educator and administrator workforce. That's an issue, an initiative rather, that we're very much involved in on a number of levels and a number of initiatives and pilot programs with the state. So we're pretty well on our way to that, and we're really optimistic that we'll continue to strengthen ourselves in that area. 57% felt that we needed to hire additional instructional coaches. 57%, right around just below the instructional coaches, were to expand early childhood programs. 56% were to hire additional administrators to support teaching and learning for students and staff. And then 44% were to use funds to expand learning time or adding on to the school day. That's not necessarily an extended learning time program, but the state has made it available if you want to use some of this money to add additional time, not necessarily in the extended learning time grant program, but if you wanted to do that, and again, that was the lowest ranked priority that we had. So the next steps are that we will be completing our long form. We'll be using these, in particular, kind of the top 5 programs that we have as a way of prioritizing our budgetary discretion and needs within this. When we start our budget meetings, this will be the way in which we'll look as a input from our stakeholders. The form will be due to Commissioner Riley's office on April 1st. As I said, we'll continue to use this as our budget priorities and what our stakeholders have identified as the priorities for the district on our evidence-based programs. I think it's important to continually note that this is year 1 of a 7-year phase-in process. We heard directly from Senator Lewis that over the 7-year period, Malden should expect to see $20 to $25 million in additional funding. As additional funds become available in the plan, we will continue to use this to augment this plan, this blueprint that we'll have for the next 3 years. So at this time, I'm ready to go back if you want to take questions up there.
Okay, let's take some questions. Mr. Iovino, followed by Mr. Weldy.
I just would like to bring this up on the floor for discussion, so I would like to make a motion that we, for the purposes of discussion, we accept this plan.
All right, is there a second? Go ahead, Mr. Waldeck.
What plan?
The plan that was just presented, I believe, right?
The outline of the
Is that
plan
what
was
you're referring
presented.
to?
Yeah.
Answer your question?
Truthfully, no, but
Okay.
I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
All right. So Mr. Iavino's moved, seconded by Mr. Weldy for purposes of discussion. All right, let's take some questions. So you're all set for now, Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Let's go to Mr. Weldy.
So I guess, for starters, why was this not included in the information that we received in our packet? This is the first time that we're seeing any information, I think, related to this plan.
I was still working on it as of 3 o'clock this afternoon.
I understand, but I think, I have to be honest, I'm getting very tired of being asked to vote on things immediately after reading it for the very first time, and I'm still struggling to figure out respectfully, what was the plan? Like, I saw the slides, I saw the comment survey, I saw that we have to send something in by April 1st to the commissioner, but I have nothing in front of me, and honestly, those slides did not clarify to me what our plan is with the biggest, most monumental Ed Reform Act since 1993.
Superintendent?
So the 2.1 million is not an enormous increase in our Student Opportunity Act. So when we got word from the state the other day, I think that only solidified that this is really money that will increase, allow us to carry over expenses from the incoming year and target some critical needs that we have. This isn't one that will enable us to really make an opportunity as a game changer in this district. So we have identified these 5 as priorities, and we will use this money to target some of those areas. As I had said in there, continue to level the services that we have, add some of those critical needs that are identified, hiring staff that we need to in certain cases, perhaps purchasing a curriculum that we know is needed, hiring some additional social and emotional support people. I think those are the 3 top areas that we've identified, as well as our stakeholders have.
But I guess what I'm
And
getting
one
at,
more, and then I want to jump to a few other members, okay, who have their lights on.
That's fine. I'm still clarifying my
We can
very
still come
first
back
question.
to you, but I want to get some others in.
It's fine. My point is, though, I think you just described, so we're talking about the 5 areas that were ranked as the top 5 based on the slide that you'd shown?
Correct.
So what are the specifics? Like, are we submitting to DESE, we're going to level fund what we have now? Like, I mean, we don't even know what the form looks like that's being submitted. So to me, I cannot vote on anything tonight, nor do I feel comfortable voting on anything tonight, because I honestly still don't understand what it is that the plan is. I saw 5 major categories. I'm hearing very vague statements around those categories, like perhaps we'll buy new curriculum, or I don't have anything that would justify endorsing something that was sent to the state with our names on it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weldy. Let's go to Mr. McCarthy, and then we're going to hear from Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This question is actually directed towards the superintendent for the purpose of, obviously, this discussion. Superintendent, are we going to be slowly phasing in this money over time, because we only have ultimately 4.3 million? Is that the correct number?
So we won't be slowly phasing this in. The state will be phasing it in annually.
Right, okay, yeah, okay.
I mean, we're going to take that money that we get each fiscal year and use that in a strategic way, which we've identified as our priorities.
Got it, okay. Then the second question that I actually have is, what would you say is the top priority out of that list for most of the money to go towards?
Well, what the stakeholders identified was top priority was social emotional,
Okay.
followed closely by additional teachers.
Okay.
I think those would be what we would identify as critical needs in order for our students to succeed, hiring additional staff, We know we have areas where we need to hire additional staffing, in certain programs and in certain grade levels, so that we can service our students, correct?
Okay, yeah, but I definitely would agree with what Mr. Waldeck said. I think that having this information prior to the meeting, obviously in the written form, I think would have been suffice. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you. Yeah, what everybody else has said, I would have loved to have seen something ahead of time. The template itself, some more detailed information. But in regards to the actual survey, 250 online responses, 100 written responses, so 350 responses seems like such a small amount when we have a district of over 6,600 students. What did we do to reach out to these stakeholders other than you did provide, one town hall forum event? Did we do weekly Connect Ed calls reminding people? Because not everybody is online. Not everybody, goes on to Twitter to check for your announcements. What did we do to really garner these responses? Because it's such a small amount from such a large district.
I've talked to a couple districts. I think that ours was actually pretty good compared to a few in terms of they liked the online survey. They did in-person events, which were not as widely attended. So I think the fact that we gave it to people in 5 languages was a real plus. We did put this out on our social media or on our school website. We sent a Connect Ed call noting that there would be a link on our webpage for the survey. We sent that out. I believe it was the one call. I believe that we used the town hall forum as a way to. We also had written forms in each school that we got some feedback from families.
It just seems like such a small amount. I mean, to be quite honest, former Ward 5 school committee member Tara Beardsley ran a recess survey that garnered over 2,000 results. So 350 just seems like a very small number to be basing our decisions off of. I would have liked to have seen more effort put into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Next up, Mr. Iovino.
I heard the figure, and unless I heard it incorrectly, Mr. McCarthy, did you say 4.3? I thought we were getting slightly more than 2.
Couple with the city, 4.3.
Coupled with the city, 4.3?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Luong.
Thank you. I have a few problems with this. I echo both Mr. Walda and Ms. Spatafor. I also asked at the last school committee meeting that we had that this be expanded to the Vietnamese language. Were you able to do that?
Yes, we did.
You did. Great. And how many were actually responded by the different languages? Did we get a large amount? Was that translated?
There was overwhelmingly in English. We did not get many respondents in the other languages. That's correct.
Okay.
The phone call did go home in 5 languages, though.
Great. Thank you. And then my other question is that why weren't we copied on the survey results ahead of time? Why weren't we given anything ahead of time? Even at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we got nothing. This is the first I saw it and the first I heard it.
I apologize. I will get them to you first thing tomorrow. I think that the presentation here captured it.
I don't feel that it captured exactly what you're describing as the plan to spend this kind of money. I look forward to seeing what you're going to deliver to us tomorrow morning, and I'll look in my email. I also echo that 350 survey results isn't okay. It's not good enough. I feel like we should have had more. I also am concerned, 5 days, what did we get, maybe 7-day notice that there's another town hall on Thursday. I don't know about anybody else, but I can't make my schedule like that. And I don't know many parents that can drop everything at 5 or 7 days notice unless I missed an email that I don't think I was the only one that didn't get it in time. So, thank you.
Mr. Gray.
Thank you, This is directed towards the superintendent. This is more of a general information sort of question. Seeing as we're getting a lump sum to deal with specific categories that we want to enhance or improve in the school system, are we going to be dealing with this sum of money in a district-wide way, say targeting specific soft spots school by school, or is it going to be divvied up in some sort of equal allotment for each different school and the high school within the Malden Public School System?
We would have to deal with it on a critical priority need. If a, for instance, if there was a bubble class at a school or more students program that we needed to develop, we would have to go with that. It wouldn't be something that each school would get equal money. We administer our school budget district-wide. We meet with our principals and our directors and ask them to formulate what their priorities and their needs are, and then followed by their wants, and we target our budget that way.
Thank you. I think that's a critical piece of information that probably everybody up here and in the audience wanted to know.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Anybody else before we entertain the motion? Mr. Weldy.
So when can we expect to see the survey data that was garnered from the online responses?
I can send that to you tomorrow morning.
Okay, and was there also, I heard during Ms. Gesualdo's public comment, there was feedback from the SOA workshop that was supposed to have been sent to us as well?
Correct. That wasn't in the categories, but they were a list of priorities and in different categories, but not necessarily the ones that are evidence-based on the template that we'll be filling out.
Okay. I do want to echo what I think some of my colleagues have said in terms of the survey responses. I think, it was nice to have the 350 responses. At the same time, I think this was an opportunity for us to really go out into the community. I think hosting one forum here definitely wasn't enough. And I think the process could have been more collaborative in nature. I think you can lean on any of us to host a forum in our own neighborhood, at our own school. But I think the fact that it wasn't a very inclusive process made it a little hard to do that. So I think I will still just sort of leave with the same question that I had at the beginning, which was, is what we're voting on tonight information that's being inputted into a template? Can we see the template? Can we see the information that's going into the template? I just I need some clarification on what it is that you're looking from us tonight as specifically as possible.
What I'm looking for is that this is the overall blueprint, and then we will be filling out the form for the state. They are not looking for it specifically that we're hiring, 2 teachers at the ABC school, or we'll be creating a program at the XYZ school. They're looking at overall kind of big picture things. They're not looking at the level of specificity, but they are looking for the justification as to why we are prioritizing this and what, using those evidence-based programs, why would this be something that would benefit the Malden Public School students?
All set, Mr. Weldy? Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Anybody
Chairman.
else? Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. Weldy. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Weldy?
No.
Ms. Luong?
No.
Mr. Drummond?
No.
Mr. Pryor?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
No.
Ms. Spatafora? No. Mayor Christensen?
Yes. All right, well, just to let the members know, we'll be coming back as much as it takes to get the plan adopted. So open your schedules up and be prepared. If we have to come back 10 times, we'll come back 10 times, but it has to be sent to the state. I would also say from the chair's point of view, the state honestly doesn't even want to do this. They were directed by the legislature to accept this plan. So to me, this is very low on the totem pole in terms of, what we're doing here. The real action will take place when we deliberate the budget. Fortunately, they still gave us the ability to determine how the funds are spent. So, we can get granular here on this plan that's being submitted to the state. But trust me when I tell you this is going right on the shelf when it's submitted to the Commonwealth. So again, it's voted down. I will send out a meeting schedule. I would encourage all the members to get their questions answered ahead of time, not just at the meeting. And if you have a problem getting your questions answered, please let the chair know, and I will help you get your questions answered. And if I can't help you, then go to town. Have at it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, here publicly. Go to public comment. But, next order of business, bullying prevention plan update. We're going to move on, Mr. Iovino. Yes. April 1st, yep. We're going to come back as many nights as it takes to get it done. Superintendent Oteri, bullying prevention plan update. Sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to invite Mr. Charlie Conifrey, Director of Health, Physical Education, and Athletics, to give an update on the Malden Public Schools bullying prevention plan.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to give a brief overview, bullying prevention and intervention plan update, basically what we've been up to, what we've been doing over the last couple of years. In December of 2018, former Assistant Superintendent Dr. Sandy Donna presented a bullying plan which was accepted by a school committee and submitted by the state. Myself and I basically offered to help review a curriculum and infuse it into our current curriculum. That was back in 2018. In 2019, I worked with our PE staff, K-12, our health staff, K-12, and looked into an overview of our MARC bullying curriculum, which is the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center curriculum, which is offered free through the state of Massachusetts. It was determined at that time that we could use that specific curriculum and incorporate that into our current curriculum used, which is the Great Body Shop, which is mainly used from grades K to 8. Within that curriculum in the Great Body Shop and the prevention violence unit, there's specific topics that are talked about, specifically bullying prevention, cyberbullying, along with important aspects, how to define community helpers, how to be a responsible contributing member of society, what is unsafe and violent actions, safety routines to avoid violence, danger, and social awareness. Over the last couple years leading up to this point, starting back in 2018, we've had numerous district-wide and specific trainings, and I'll go over those if you bear with me. In October of 2018, health and PE staff members were fully trained district-wide on the MARC bullying curriculum, as well as district policies and procedures. In April 2019, several K-8 health educators attended a MIA 5th Annual Mental Health Summit. The MIA offers numerous seminars for physical education, health educators, coaches across the state of Massachusetts, specific everything that's encompassing mental health. May of 2019, once again, the MIA offered social media and safety and bullying prevention, which several of our K-8 educators, health educators, attended. In October 2019, the 23rd Annual MIA Wellness Summit, Bullying Intervention and Prevention and Social Media Convention. Several of our educators attended that. Now, with that being said, we can't pull all of our educators out at the same time. So we pick and choose and try to make sure that 3, 4, or 5 educators, no more than 5 educators, are out of the district at the same time, especially at the K-8 level where we would have to get substitute teachers. In November of 2019, one of our district-wide early releases, health and PE staff, K-12, received training, again, reiterating the MARC anti-bullying curriculum and cyberbullying curriculum. That leads us up to present day on March 13th in a focused effort to align our curriculum moving forward, especially social emotional curriculum. Myself and Director of Guidance, Ms. Erin Craven, are hosting a PD for all of guidance, as well as all of my staff, K-12, and basically do a curriculum audit. What's going on in each building at each grade level as far as social emotional curriculum concerns go? What are our next steps moving forward? And if you would like, we can present that and our findings to you after possibly the next school committee, which is April 6th. Yep. So we can do that if you'd like. And then some of the other things that should be pointed out, what we've been doing over the past couple of years, district-wide, all of the restorative practices training that happens throughout our buildings, the PBIS, K-8, multiple tiered support system that the Forestdale and the Department of Ed are working on, specific around social emotional curriculum. And some of those things will be discussed during our March PD, and talking about what we would like to implement moving forward, and that will be part of what we would present to you in April. Some other important things that I think should be noted. Several of our educators across the district are teacher coaches, specifically in health and PE. I think it's important to note that they spend a considerable amount of time with our students at all grade levels in the classroom and out of the classroom in different settings specific around athletics. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Conifrey. Let's open it up for questions. Does everybody have information upon which they can ask questions? All right, let's go to Ms. Luan. Did you want to ask questions? Let me go to you.
Great, thank you. So first, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. It's very clear with everything that you've done. So I do look forward to hearing more on what's been done by school in terms of, so I do look forward to seeing that report. The other thing I wanted to say is, how have we reached back to parents and including them in the whole bullying process, bullying prevention process, and how have we kind of, because I know part of the plan has us reaching back to them to see what supports they can give us at home to reiterate some of the curriculum. So what have you done in terms of things like that?
So part of the, I don't know if this is on it. Hey, there you go. So part of the MARC curriculum, and I have copies for you if you'd like to take them afterwards. It's broken up into 3 different sections where you have cyberbullying specific, you have a K-5 specific, and a middle school, high school bullying prevention curriculum. And part of the lessons actually teach how to incorporate more parent involvement, actually bringing pieces of the curriculum home as homework, and the students interacting with their parents on certain subjects that are taught within the classroom. That is our main form, and I think that's imperative. You have, hopefully, you have a one-to-one with the parent, student, and their understanding what's going on in the classroom, what's actually being taught in the classroom. I would say that's our main form.
So is that being done, or is that something we're looking to do?
No, it's part of our curriculum. It's part of what's being taught. So I think it's important to understand too that bullying is one aspect. one aspect of a wide variety and a wide range of what is taught when we're talking about violence prevention. It's one aspect, and it's a very important aspect. But it's a piece. It's a piece that added, and that piece correlates what goes into our social emotional learning, and that is the work that's going to be done moving forward. It's important to know too, we haven't had a director of guidance in a long time, and Erin and I, Ms. Craven and I have worked over since the start of the year, coming up with plans on how to get the district on the same page. When we continuously talk about equity across the district, what's happening in each building, this is an important piece. And we're consistently talking about social emotional learning. That piece must be the same across the district, and that's what we're doing. That's what our March 13th PD is really all about. We're looking at auditing what's happening in our building and what is going to be the best curriculum moving forward for all of our students.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you, Ms. Luong. Now we're going to go to Ms. Spatafora, followed by Mr. Iavino.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this information. Reading through it, I see a lot of PD and training specific to health, PE guidance, which I guess would make sense with you presenting, being the director of health, PE.
Yeah.
How about our school principals, though? I don't know if maybe this question maybe isn't for you, maybe it should be directed more to the superintendent, but, looking at these list of dates of training and whatnot, I'm seeing, again, health, PE guidance, but how about actual school principals, the ones that are making decisions when it comes down to bullying issues within their schools? What's the directed professional development at that level?
You mean specific training on that? I mean, they've worked with Mr. Conifrey, kind of briefed and overviewed on the curriculum, but we haven't had any specific, like where they've been pulled out to sit in a class that I'm aware of. It's really been the staff. I think that in our leadership program, we give updates on what's going on. Now that we have a director of guidance, I think that the professional development on this and the oversight the quality will get better.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Conifrey, as I look over this handout that we have here as part of our packet, it says that the goal is going to be to audit what's going on in all of our schools. So it's not going to be schools. You're not going to deliver a report that's school specific, but rather district wide. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Correct. Yeah, district wide, and as you know, we have few opportunities to actually see all of our staff in one spot at one time for an extended period of time. We have early release days, which are an hour and a half, where we have full staff PD, and to be honest, in my 4 years, we've never done this before specifically, and I think it's really important that it is done. In the day and time that we're in today, and the direction that the district is going, it will be district-wide in trying to keep equity and alignment across the district.
All set, Mr. Iavino?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Weldy, and then we'll go to Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Charlie, I just wanted to say thank you. I think this is a big task that you've taken on. I think between you and Erin, I think having a home there is a good thing, that it lies between the two of you. The report you put together is really comprehensive. I think I echo what Ms. Luong was saying. I'd be interested in seeing sort of more of a school-to-school breakdown, but as well as what Mr. Iavino was saying about district-wide piece, but I still would love to see a little more of that.
I think it's not out of the realm at all to see it school by school what's going on. It will be very clear once we get everyone in the same room. It'll be pretty fun. And if you have time, maybe stop in and see what we're up to that day. We'll be in the gym, by the way.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had children in the Malden Public School System for more than a decade, and in various forms there have been programs around like this for that entire time. Are there, I guess this is sort of an abstract question, are there any statistics or metrics on how bullying has changed or lessened or anything over a period of time? In all the paperwork we have, it says what training's happening and what the policies are, but nothing about statistics about what's actually happening with bullying in the schools.
I would say I will have to get back to you on that because I don't have specific data points in front of me. But going back to our youth behavior risk survey that was implemented across the district, there were specific questions, and that was a student survey. And I can get back to you on that with some specific data points.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Anybody else? Superintendent?
If I could just chime in a little bit, I think, to understand sort of a statistical shift, if you will, Mr. Gray, in bullying, when the law was passed in 2010, it was a result of a tragedy in a high school. And what we've seen statewide is that the bullying has drifted right down into the middle grades. I think that's probably in our youth risk survey sort of bear that out locally. But I think in terms of the shift or statistical shift, that would probably be what we've seen across the state, and I think we fall right into that category as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conifrey. We're all set, I think. Okay. Superintendent, no action required, right? That was more of an update?
No, and I don't know, I can't remember if Mr. Conifrey mentioned it, but we will be working on developing a training video.
Yes, good one.
That we hope to have probably by the end of this school year, so it will be ready for our staff when they come in September.
Yeah, that was a good point. Thank you for reminding me on that. So we're, along with Natalia Brennan, we're going to do an all-staff voiceover video PowerPoint for staff to look at, and it basically overviews our entire plan. It'll be part of some of the other policies and procedures that we have all staff take a look at, conflict of interest. It will be part of that, and we can have a PowerPoint for you in May.
Okay, so no action required on behalf of the committee tonight. This is more of an update, right? Mr. O'Terry?
Correct. That's my understanding. But I think down in motions there's something on Ms. Luong is sponsoring something that's related to this. I'm not.
All right. Well, we'll hold that till we get to motions and resolutions. So let's carry on. So next is Sandy Hook update, right?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Conifrey.
Thank you, Mr. Conifrey.
Don't go too far. At our last school committee meeting, I was tasked with doing some research on the Sandy Hook Promise. A couple items that we can update you on. We've prepared an update that speaks to the entire plan that the Malden Public Schools is doing on social emotional learning. We looked at, Ms. Craven has spoken with Sandy Hook and is examining it starts with Hello curriculum as well as some others with her staff. Mr. Conifrey and her staff will be vetting a number of these on March 13th. We also have an update on the Say Something that is at our public safety, our emergency management team. They are currently vetting that. I think it may have taken a little bit of a backseat with the coronavirus lately, but that is being looked at by our public safety emergency management team right now. So at this point, I'd like to call up our Director of Guidance, Ms. Erin Craven, and our Athletic Director and Director of Health and Physical Education, Mr. Charlie Conifrey, to the podium to provide an overview of our social emotional learning plan.
Hi, everyone. Charlie already said all the good stuff. So I did prepare just a little statement that Charlie and I had been working on about our coming plan on the 13th and about Sandy Hook's Promise that I have looked into. So it was, I believe, included with your things, but I will just review that for you. We're just recognizing that there is great work happening around social emotional learning in Malden Public Schools, as well as gaps in the district-wide programming and delivery of curriculum. We, Charlie and I, are meeting with all the school counselors, all the school social workers, all the health teachers, and all the PE teachers on Friday, March 13th. We're going to look at the past practices of SEL in Malden Public Schools, the current trends around the country and the state, and our goal is to have an audit where we look at everything, what we have, where the gaps exist, and make a comprehensive plan of what all our practitioners would like to see for social emotional learning going forward to benefit all the children in the Malden Public Schools K through 12. We're seeking to ensure that all the Malden Public School students have equitable access to proven research-based methodologies and curriculums around social emotional learning. Per a suggestion of the school committee last month, I have contacted Sandy Hook Promise on February 4th. I received materials from them on February 10th, and I also recently completed their training to be a trainer for the Sandy Hook Start with Hello program. On the 13th, we're going to have over 50 educators together, and we're going to consider the Start with Hello initiatives, along with a lot of other evidence-based, peer-reviewed SEL curriculums. According to the RAND International, there are over 60 curriculums currently in use that are evidence-based and peer-reviewed. So it's vital for us to have a clear understanding of what practices are being used and which practices we already have successfully implemented in the Malden Public Schools. You heard Charlie mention a number of them run through health classes around the district. Both social workers and school guidance counselors are implementing different pieces of different curriculums in different ways, and it's all well done and well intentioned, but we would like to see exactly what's happening so that we know what we have and we know what we want, and then we are happy to share those findings with you, both by school and by district, because I think it's important to look at it in all those different ways. You are welcome to come by on the afternoon of the 13th. We'll be playing some social emotional learning games. We will be making some grids and having some topic discussions. And then we're happy, either of us, discuss to join or come into your social emotional learning subcommittee, however we may be helpful. We want to remember, too, as Charlie mentioned, that social emotional learning, it's not just the canned curriculum. It's in our everyday practices. It's in the lunchroom. It's on the playground. It's a whole community learning situation. PBIS and the K through 8s this past year, it has a lot of examples of good social emotional learning. The high school theme this year is You Are Not Alone, which I know Batul can speak to, and that is one of those pieces that suggests, social emotional learning is about being connected and feeling that you are not alone. That's also one of the things in the Sandy Hook's Promise piece. So lots of things to look at, lots of things to do. We just want to be planned and purposeful about that vertical alignment of our initiatives and curriculum so that it is equitable around the district by all the grades as we go forward. So we hope to have some more of that in April and May for you.
All right, questions? Mr. Iovino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Erin, can you just give me a little update about the Sandy Hook program? What was your impression of it?
So there's a couple different aspects to it, and there's Start with Hello, which is really around the idea of preventing students and faculty from feeling isolated, from feeling connected. So you reach out. You see someone you don't know, and then you want to speak to them or react to them. So you teach kids to start with hello, and then they have a lot of kind of icebreakers, like ways when you're a smaller child that you can speak to other kids, like informal ways of speaking. They have a lot of 30 to 40 minute very friendly lessons for younger grades. There are ways that they allow for you to present to whole schools versus classrooms. It's friendly. It's fairly simple, a lot of it. It is all free, which is wonderful. So I think it's worth looking at in terms of where we go forward. But it's Sandy Hook's Promise was founded by parents from Sandy Hook, and a lot of their initiatives come back around to preventing gun violence in the community and schools. So a lot of their curriculum is about feeling connected and feeling that you belong to prevent those feelings. And if you see someone who's not connected, either connecting to them or then reporting that someone may be feeling not connected. So it's fairly universal in that regard. And they do offer a lot of their presentations in 3 or 4 languages on their website.
Okay.
So worth consideration.
Thank you very much, Erin.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Iovino. Anybody else? No action required? Superintendent, this is more of an update, right?
Correct, this is an update.
All right, thank you very much. Let's now return to our superintendent for district updates and highlights.
Sure, thank you. Malden High School's Pathways program, I have an update there. As many of you may be aware, Malden Public Schools will wish the legendary Ron Janowitz, the program manager at the Malden High School Pathways program, a happy retirement at the end of the school year. He's been with the Malden Public Schools for 3 decades. I think I speak for many of us when we say that Ron has been the face of the Pathways program and so much more for many years. He leaves big shoes to fill. While there is absolutely no way we could ever replace Ron, what we have begun is to discuss how we will move forward when Ron retires. Through the funding from the Barr Foundation, Principal Mastrangelo, Program Manager Ron Janowitz, Assistant Superintendent Wood and Chase, and I were able to work with consultants Barbara Kroc and Christina Farisi to get a sense of a history of Pathways, the strengths and challenges related to the program has faced over the years, and how it has grown and evolved, as well as a vision for the future programming. We will be preparing a job description and posting for a new leader and hope that have that out shortly, and we will keep the committee updated regarding any of these developments. Our visioning work for the strategic plan for the district continues. This week we had 2 very big productive meetings. One was on Monday the 24th. That was with our principals and program directors. And then we had principals, program directors, and our visioning team on Thursday, February 27th. We're excited as it looks like we are very close to having a plan in a very short time. They will be, Laurie Likas, our consultant, will be meeting with our leadership team on Thursday, March 12th. We had very productive sessions and a great amount of synergy in this group, and we will bring it to the school committee once it is ready. We think it will help set the course for the Malden Public Schools for the next decade. It will be a 3-year plan, but we've really taken a 10-year overview approach to developing this plan. On my diversity, equity, and inclusion updates, start with gender equity. We're pleased to announce that as of today, the Ferryway School has opened 2 all-gender bathrooms. One is on the 3rd floor of A Wing, and the other is on the 2nd floor of C Wing. We're working on details of adding the 2 additional bathrooms at the Forestdale School next. We will update the committee when that work has been concluded. We're also pleased to announce that in May and June, PFLAG, which is Parents, Friends of Lesbian and Gays, which is a education advocacy group in the LGBTQ plus community, will be doing training of our students in grades 5 through 8 beginning in May. We're working out the details on that with PFLAG and with the schools. We'll get specific dates for all our students. They'll receive a presentation from PFLAG. It's a highly recommended program through our consultant, Jeff Parati of Safe Schools from the Department of Education. Likely to be done by grade level. We're happy about this, and we will update the committee when those dates become finalized. Also, in addition, all staff will receive training on this topic when we come back in either August 31st or September 1st. We have some updates on our Black History Month highlight. We did a great deal of work across the district in Black History. It was incorporated in various curriculum grades across the district. I'd like to salute Mr. Hurley, our humanities director, who did a tremendous job of providing resources and guidance for many of our staff. I think the highlight of this month for me was on Thursday with the Malden High School door decorating contest. The mayor and I were 2 of the celebrity judges on this. We were really impressed. The participation was excellent. So good that the demand far exceeded the supply. We had 45 teachers who requested to be in this, and we only had enough student manpower for 21 of those doors. But the doors were very inspirational and creative. The winning one was by Miss Alexis at the high school English department. It was a beautiful artistic door, but the door was framed with QR codes that when you scanned your phone onto it, it brought you to a mini biography page on some influential or historic Black American. Each one of the students chose one, so it really was a total incorporation of making it part of the lesson and also a very artistic value. It was really phenomenal. We also came up with some additional categories to acknowledge some of the other doors that were really outstanding. On our recruitment level, Ms. Ashley Pierre, our Human Resource Director, attended a recruitment event Wednesday evening at Harvard University. She and I will be at the Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education job fair on Saturday, March 21st at Cambridge Rindge and Latin High School. This is a great opportunity for us to meet with diverse educators and present some great career opportunities that we offer here in the Malden Public Schools. Also, Ms. Pierre and our Humanities Director, Mr. Hurley, and I were at the Diversity Network on Wednesday, February 26th out in Worcester. We met with our cohort to develop our plan, which is part of the grant that we're involved in. The work is important as we embark on it. Please note that the school committee support was required to begin with this and also will be required down the road. We're making tremendous progress on this and we'll update the committee as we move forward. I am establishing a Superintendent's Diversity Advisory Committee for the Malden Public Schools. The purpose of the committee is to discuss recruitment, hiring, and retention of diverse faculty and administrative staff and any concerns related to our diverse student population and faculty. Malden is a uniquely diverse community, and we're making strides to diversify that talent pool here in Malden. We're inviting people who represent a rich part of that fabric of Malden's diversity to this committee whose contributions would be invaluable. We believe that their input and guidance will provide a positive overall benefit for our students and staff. The goal of the committee is to meet 5 to 6 times a year. I've been working with Regina Kane. She's the educational liaison from the Mystic Valley chapter of the NAACP, and it is a model which she has great experience and success with in another district. The committee will be comprised of 11 members. We're in the process of finalizing this committee, and I will keep the committee informed once we have our roster complete and when we get meetings. Again, we'll try to meet 5 to 6 times a year. Kindergarten registration is open. Began in the Malden Public Schools for residents who are born between September 1st, 2014 and August 31st of 2015. They are eligible to enroll. About 450 registration booklets have been mailed and families are starting to receive them. Parents are already submitting the registration paperwork and scheduling for ELL testing. The parent information compiles a list of students from the Early Learning Center, the city's clerk office from the census, city census, and we advertise this on social media, Malden Public Television or Urban Arts, I think its new name is, and local newspapers, and informing parents to call the office on this. For the school year 1920, we did a significant amount of screenings in the summer of 2019, and for upcoming school year, hoping to start the screenings even earlier during this current school year. We will provide more information and updates at the next meeting. Our English Language Learner Update, the first MELAC meeting, that's the Malden English Learner Advisory Committee, met on February 11th. The next meeting will feature a guest speaker who will present on the theme of Know Your Rights. The tentative date is sometime in April. We don't have that shored up yet. Information will be sent home to families of English learners. Also from the English Learner Education Department, Heritage Celebration at the Department of Education. They would like to acknowledge April as Heritage Month and has reached out to the Department of English Learner Education and the Malden Public Schools in general to showcase our students to celebrate their heritage. They'll be asked to present to the Department of Education staff in April, and we will provide information when this becomes available. Our evening adult English as a second language classes, we're trying to schedule adult ESL classes in April for families of English learners. We're still in need of trained adult ESL staff. Dr. Indara has spent some time and effort in trying to hire teachers. Postings have been both internal and external, but so far we have not had much success. We're currently working with a consultant from Lesley University who's helping us to identify some potential graduate students who may be interested. We are also following up on other leads as well. We know that there's a great need for our English as a second language education classes in our community. We are also continuing to work. Dr. Indara had a meeting on March 3rd with the English Learner Education Leadership Team in Framingham. They have agreed. We've worked out an agreement for them to help do some consulting with us, and we will report back on updates as that becomes available. In health, the SBIRT, that's the Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral for Treatment, will begin in April in grades 7 and 9. In March. All screenings will be done in a private one-on-one session. This is a mandated state survey that's required. What the child tells the screener is confidential and not be shared with any other person without written prior consent of the student, parent, or guardian, except in cases of immediate medical emergency or when disclosure is otherwise required by state law. No written record of the results of this verbal screening are kept, and no information that identifies any student is there. Screening results will not be put with any other information that identifies any child, and screening results will not be included as part of a student's school record. If the mailing went out the end of January to all families. Under the flu and coronavirus update, Malden's emergency management team meets regularly on this. I've gone to a couple meetings. Mr. Dolan is our regular attendee on this, led by Board of Health Director Chris Webb. We've been informed via the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and the State Department of Public Health that the risk for coronavirus remains very low in Massachusetts, but we're still preparing and will be ready. We're exercising, our first responders are exercising universal precautions, as well as emergency personnel doing the same. We'll monitor students and staff who display flu-like symptoms and have been sent home and out. We sent home a what to do when your child is sick flyer. Information from the Commonwealth's Executive Health and Human Services Department of Public Health has been posted on our website, and we will send these letters home, and after we get them translated into multiple languages. We have had, as I've noted last meeting, confirmed cases of the flu, but no one in Malden has registered or being quarantined for having coronavirus. We do have students in the Tornado Travelers Club who are scheduled to travel next month for April vacation to both London and France. We will continue to monitor the global situation and work with the Center for Disease Controls and state authorities around what the travel precautions and restrictions are. At this point, both destinations are open and deemed safe for travel. However, this is a rapidly developing situation, and we will keep the committee updated as informed as all of this unfolds. The Malden Police, led by Detective Renee Kelly, Detective Steve Mulcahy, and Sergeant Mike Powell, hosted a cyber safety training session for parents on Wednesday, February 12th. This was an excellent session and offered parents many insights and tips to keep their students safe while online. We will be rolling out a training specifically for our middle grade program, probably by sometime in April for grades 5 through 8. We're working on the dates and times, and we will notify families of this, and they would have the opportunity to opt out if this was not something they wanted. However, we highly recommend it. I think, coupled with what we see on the bullying, this is a way to keep our students safe. Increasingly, the phone, the internet has become a more dangerous place for our students, and we need to make sure that they are safe. We had an information session on the before and after school program on Thursday, February 13th at the Salemwood School. Director Jenny McGoldrick and her site coordinators were on hand. Student project work was displayed, and we had a question and answer ceremony session. We had a great turnout, as well as a number of people with some suggestions going forward. The program has made great strides in the last few years, and we're looking forward to doing great things in the near future. The April camp vacation flyers and summer camp flyers are posted on our website now. Congratulations to Dr. Doug Dias, our STEM director. He has received notification that he is the recipient of a Fulbright Leaders for Global Schools grant program, and he will be going to Singapore at the end of the month. He is one of 20 U.S. citizens who will travel through the Fulbright Leaders for Global Schools during the 2020-2021 school year. Recipients of the grants are selected on the basis of academic and professional achievement, as well as demonstrated leadership potential. Fulbright Leaders for Global School Programs sends a cohort of K-12 school and district administrators to Finland and Singapore for an intensive program to learn the best educational practices to enhance learning and prepare students for careers and citizenship in the global economy. The Fulbright program is the flagship international educational exchange program sponsored by the U.S. government and is designed to build relations between people of the United States and people in other countries that are needed to help solve global challenges. The Fulbright program is funded through an annual appropriation made by the U.S. Congress and U.S. State Department. Participating governments and host institutions, corporations, and foundations around the world, which operates in over 160 countries worldwide. We're very proud and salute Dr. Doug Dias for this achievement. We wait to hear from him when he reports back from Singapore. Our tornado travelers traveled to Belize over February vacation. They were chaperoned by Ms. Shauna Campbell, Ms. Sarah Jones, and along with teacher Ann Mooney. They led over 20 students on a trip to Belize exploring the natural and historic wonders of that Central American country. Upcoming reminders and dates: the Census 2020 will be sent home to all families on March 12th. Malden is deemed a hard-to-count community. We're working to get the word out. I've been on the steering committee for the last several months. We want to make sure everybody in Malden gets counted. Flyers will be sent home this week in multiple languages. This is a flyer that comes from the National Education Association. Every person in Malden translates into roughly $2,500 for the city. It's very important, it's safe, and everyone counts. Tomorrow in Massachusetts is presidential primary. We will have additional police at each polling place. I think all schools except the high school are used as a polling place. We have a town hall meeting on Thursday at the Malden High School Gallery. The next one is scheduled on May 7th at the Ferryway School. Friday, April 3rd, is the annual Stop the Stigma Day. Financial Literacy Fair. Malden High School will host the first annual Financial Literacy Fair on May 8th at the Dockside Restaurant. Students will participate in a simulation to experience what it is like to balance a budget and make choices around housing, food, and clothing. Malden Public Schools would like to thank Kevin Duffy and City Councilor Peg Crow for their support in connecting Malden High School with local organizations and businesses to support this endeavor. We'd also like to thank the Dockside for graciously hosting our event and the community business and organizations who have already communicated their interest in volunteering. Planning for this fair is still in the early stages. An official press release will be shared after details are finalized. If you are interested in supporting this work, please reach out to either Ms. Natalia Brennan or Ms. Erin Craven. Reminder to families that Friday, March 13th is no school due to professional development for all staff. And then lastly, big congratulations to Malden High School junior Johanny Costa, who won her second straight Massachusetts State Wrestling Championship at the 145-pound category. This is a phenomenal accomplishment, and we're really proud of Johanny. Also, congratulations to the girls wrestling team, who finished second in the state this past weekend. This team is a cooperative team with Everett High School. Congratulations to our young ladies who participated in this. We're really proud of you, and congratulations. And that concludes my report.
All right, let's open it up to questions of the members. Any questions on the superintendent's report? Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question, but it has three parts to it. It's actually around the PFLAG presentation, Superintendent.
Yes.
The first question that I have, will the parents be notified prior to that presentation?
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will. Okay. Will they have the option for having their child be opted out for that?
Correct. Again, we would encourage
Okay.
participation, but we would allow an opt-out.
Okay. And then will the parents know what's going to be presented during that presentation?
We're going to get an overview from PFLAG around what the general concepts are. It's primarily on language and ways in which issues should be addressed. But yes, we'll get as much information as we can. PFLAG does this to schools all across the state, so yeah.
Okay. All right, great, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Next up, Mr. Weldy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few questions. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Committee on Diversity and sort of what you're looking at the makeup to be? I think particularly from like our lens and thinking about the Equity and Opportunity Subcommittee, what role any of us could play in helping.
Sure. So I've worked with the mayor's office in identifying some community members. It's really a community-based approach. That's the model that Ms. Keynes has advised us on. I know the mayor and I met with her earlier this year. We're looking for a couple parents, and we've reached out to leaders of different cultural groups as well as the people in the ecumenical world. And our HR director will be on that as well as myself.
I would encourage, we are also members of the community, and there are 3 of us at least on the Equity and Opportunity Subcommittee. I think reaching out and trying to include someone in the process would be helpful.
Sure.
In terms of the town hall on Thursday, what's the topic?
We're going to have some principals present some of the things that have been going on in their schools, and then we're really there for some questions and answers, some input from families, what we're doing well, what we need to work on.
Okay. In the future, it would be great. I was looking at the calendar section of the website. If we could include the town hall sections or the town hall forums on the sections of the website.
Sure.
I was playing around with it. It's a very cool tool. I think the 5K to 8s in the high school and the ELC have been pretty consistently adding things, and so I've seen more things than I'd ever knew were going on before. So if we could add some of the district meetings to those, I think that would be helpful for parents and folks who are looking for information about when and where to go. In terms of the census, is there anything particular that we're doing as a district to sort of help promote and get the word out about the census?
Jim Valenti's class is preparing a video that will go out in multiple languages. The schools are not hosting this. I think that there's a real, we want to make sure that we're getting our families counted. But at the same time, I think, given the sensitivity of this, I've been guiding during the steering committee about ways in which they would need to reach out to families. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah. At the last meeting, and I know you touched on the after-school forum in your report, the last meeting we did request that Ms. McGoldrick might have been able to be present at the March meeting to repeat the presentation. Hopefully we can get her in for the April meeting so that way we can see some of what's been going on. Maybe the committee will get a chance to ask some of those questions about registration and timelines and days and financials that I think we got to do to a smaller degree at the forum, so I'd like to put that on your radar if possible.
Sure. She could not be here tonight. She was unavailable, but I can see if she's available for the April 6th meeting.
That would be great. Thank you. And I think last, I want to just sort of reiterate, and I would love to see the district updates sort of provided in the packet. I think, it was difficult for me, and I'm happy and honest to say that I'm a very slow processor. I think hearing a list of that many things in a row and then having to sort of process it and ask the questions, it would be great if we could sort of have those included in the packet, even if when they're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Next up, Ms. Luong.
Thank you. I just have one question. It's probably a little bit premature, but do you have a plan in place should a quarantine have to happen around the coronavirus? Do you have, especially, 2 groups going out to London and you said France, do you have a plan of like homeschool support, or should they have to be quarantined for 2 weeks? We certainly don't want that to affect their studies. What do you think would be your plan on that?
Is that around the students that are traveling in April?
In general. In general.
Just for our students?
Should we have a student that has to be quarantined? Do we have a homeschool plan? Or
so they would be eligible for some support after 5 days, but we need to look at what individual one, what the duration of the quarantine would be.
Correct.
But we're working with our local authorities on what we would do in the instance of quarantined students, what that would mean for the school itself. We're really exploring all of that.
Great.
I mean, it's all new territory for everybody.
No? Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Long. I'm sorry, Mr. Welder. I thought last question. You have.
Wait.
Nobody else is lit up. Go right ahead, sir.
Just a thought, and I'm thinking about a meeting prior to me being on the committee. I was thinking about the Safe Schools resolution that the past committee voted on, which was amazing, and I'm thinking about the uptick in ICE activity that we've been seeing, I think specifically around our area. Do we know, have all of the elements of that resolution been implemented and sort of passed on to like the individual buildings, the service providers, the people at the front desks, so that we know how to sort of take that?
I'd need to get back to you on that. I'm not 100% sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Anybody else? Subcommittee reports and discussions. First up, Mr. Iovino. Space and enrollment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The student enrollment numbers for the week ending February the 28th are 6,706. And I thank Mrs. Federico for also including, and as I gave out to the members of the committee tonight, the list of various apartment buildings around the city. And it looks as though we have a total of approximately exactly 943 youngsters who live in various apartment buildings across the city. And that accounts roughly for approximately 14% of the student population. And in addition, Mrs. Federico, and I again gave out page 2 of, you have the whole document Mrs. Federico made for me, all of the enrollment numbers that I have been recording and reporting to the committee over this past year. And what I did this weekend was just to update, and I call your attention to page 2 especially. There were 2 columns on there that are handwritten, and what I did was to update the enrollment numbers for the end of February, which yields the number of 6,706. And then in the last column on the right is the increase in each particular grade from September until now. And we have approximately 171 youngsters who have come into the Malden Public Schools since September. And our 1 month increase from February was 27 youngsters, an additional 27 youngsters. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Weldy, I believe you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 easy things, just quick reports, nothing to act on. One of which is that I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Chase, who's sort of spearheading the equity audit between the schools. We've gone through a couple different iterations of things, and she's been incredibly diligent in what she's been looking for and asking for, which has been great. I know we're expected to see something within the next week or 2. We'll recap, and I know the Equity and Opportunity Subcommittee is meeting next Monday, the 9th at 5:30 p.m. Location TBD. We're figuring out where. We think it will be here, but we'll post it when we have it available. And immediately following, the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee will be meeting at 6 p.m. But you just wanted to take a quick moment to thank Dr. Chase for that work, to let folks know that we are in the process, and that what we expect to do is get that report back, call through some data and turn it into a real presentation. And the goal on my end for the Equity and Opportunity Committee is to have a forum at each of the 5 K-8 schools, and potentially one at the Early Learning Center that I'll connect with Principal Dolan about, just because those folks are parents who are coming into our K-8 schools, just to sort of see where we're at and plan as a community about where we want to go. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Any questions of Mr. Weldy? Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Weldy, you just mentioned forums at each K through 8, possibly ELC. Why not Malden High School?
Oh, we could easily do Malden High School too, and I think that's what that's what I'm hoping the three of us will be able to hammer out next week. We could easily do the high school too. I think the audit itself is more geared. It's just K through 8, but I'm sure that there are parents at the high school who would also be interested in this. So why not add one more day? It's one more day of us being together, so why not?
Thank you.
Let's see. Mr. Iovino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the updates of the Early Learning Center. On Wednesday of school vacation, on the 19th, Mr. Oteri and I, along with Dr. Michael Wood, Tony Meritz, Peter Dolan, met with Lauren Viviani, who was a special consultant to the DESE on early childhood issues, and we spoke about space and continuing enrollment. And I know that, Mr. Oteri, you have some additional information on that.
Sure. So the Department of Education, also on that, not present in the room, but on via phone, was Donna Traham from the Department of Education as well. The Department of Education is strongly encouraging us to increase our community partnerships. We'll explore options of working with an inclusive classroom and partnering with one of the department and EEC licensed partners. We're looking to service and continue to service as many families and students as we can at the Early Learning Center. The Department of Education will be looking to do some outreach over the next couple weeks to bring in Ms. Olga Lopez, who is a family engagement specialist with a broad background in special education, to work with Malden Public Schools. I think she doesn't start for 2 weeks in the Department of Ed. We'll be working with another community in a peer-to-peer manner and explore some options that these communities have employed. DESE and the EEC are strong proponents of engaging with community partners to strengthen an already strong program and increase options. DESE is also will explore partnerships with the Department of Public Health in an effort to build relationships with schools and pediatricians. Over the next few weeks, we'll be providing lots of information to our families and keep the committee informed as we get more information from the Department of Education.
That it, Mr. Iovino?
Yes, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Iovino? Okay, hearing none. Let's go to motions and resolutions. 3 items, it looks like. MPS Bullying Prevention Policy, Ms. Luong. Student Opportunity Act Plan, Mr. Iovino, which I think we've already addressed. And then MPS Calendar 2020-2021, Mr. Weldy. Let's start with you, Ms. Luong.
Great, thank you very much. My goal on this motion really was to have us take the current policy with the superintendent as well, and any principals that would like to be part of it, and bring it to the policy committee for review. I'm just a little concerned, in talking to parents. I've heard some kind of a bit disturbing stories across the district on some bullying incidences, and I see our comprehensive plan. We've heard from, Mr. Conifrey on all the trainings that have been done, and I just really feel like this is the last step that we really have to take a look at, because I'm not understanding why we're still having some serious bullying issues, and why is there just a disconnect between what parents are reporting privately to me or to other people and what's actually getting reported into the school. So I just kind of feel like it's time for us to take a look at that, and certainly with the superintendent involved as well. That's the reason for the motion.
Okay. Second? Mr. Weldy? Is everybody clear on what Ms. Luong is proposing? And you'll follow back up with us at some point? Yeah?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The ayes have it, so that carries unanimously. The second item under motions and resolutions is the Student Opportunity Act Plan, which we addressed earlier. Just one bit of news. Mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 10th, 6 p.m. here at the Senior Center, upon which we'll make another effort to adopt. If that fails, Tuesday, March 17th, 6 p.m. here at the Senior Center. If that fails, Tuesday, March 24th, 6 p.m. here at the Senior Center. And then finally, Tuesday, March 31st, 6 p.m. here at the Senior Center. So make a note, we'll prepare the formal documentation and we'll send it out. All right? So we can meet while the council's meeting. This is important. All right, so let's go to the MPS calendar. Mr. Weldy.
Calendar's attached in your packets. Thank you, Superintendent and the leadership team for putting this together. I think let's vote on it and get it to families so that they're aware of what's to come.
So motion by Mr. Weldy, seconded by Mr. McCarthy for purposes of discussion. Any questions, queries, qualms, concerns?
Hopefully we have another mile.
Don't jinx it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Okay, next, we're going to take points of personal privilege, followed by a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations and an update on pending litigation. Left to right, Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ELC, this month we have the 17th and 18th is We're Green Days. Their school council meeting will be meeting in the staff break room on the 19th. That'll be at 2:15 p.m. and their PTO meeting will be again in the staff break room on the 25th. At the Ferryway, we have a PTO meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 in the library. On Wednesday the 4th, progress reports are going home, and it's Title I family game night at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria, to which pizza will be served. On the 13th, we've already know there's no school. On the 24th, there is group picture day starting at 8 o'clock. And on the 30th, MCAS and ELA testing for the 3rd and 4th grade will be taking place. And on a more personal note, I'd just like to thank Ms. Erin Bennett and Ms. Hannah, whose first grade class I got to read today on Read Across America. I graduated from kindergarten, and I made it to the first grade, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 points of information coming out of the Beebe School. Their book fair is going to be taking place on from March 16th to the 20th. Volunteers are needed for that. And their next PTO meeting will be taking place on March 19th at 6 p.m. in the library. And I also have another initiative that I'm actually going to be coming out with, that I'm actually going to be conducting office hours monthly for myself, starting this Saturday, March 7th. It will be taking place at the Dunkin' Donuts on Highland Ave. That's the one that's right after John Brewer's Tavern. Basically, the conversation is going to really be around, obviously, the budget process and just other discussions that the people here in the community really want to talk about and other conversations. So look forward to having people come down and have those conversations with me. Hopefully people can get out to vote tomorrow during the presidential primary. And happy St. Patrick's Day.
I'm sorry, what did you say the hours?
From 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. this coming Saturday.
12.
March 7th.
Got it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's swing over to my right. Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for the Linden STEAM Academy. Progress reports are going to be sent home on the 4th. On the 6th, Friday the 6th, there will be a middle school dance. And that's all I have for you as of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. BB School progress reports go home March 4th. That's Wednesday. Keep your eyes open. The next CPAC meeting will be held Tuesday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Forestdale School. Title I will be hosting a family game night also Tuesday, March 10th, 6 p.m. The BB Multicultural Night will be held March 12th at 6 p.m. Honestly, I have no words for it because I think it's going to be a fantastic time. Tables representing different cultures within the school. businesses from within the city will be also coming, putting on presentations, food, dances. So again, that's at BB March 12th, 6 p.m. Again, there's no school March 13th. The book fair is running March 16th through the 20th, like Mr. McCarthy said, but also we are hosting a BB book drive that has started on March 2nd through the 20th, which our library will take gently used books. And I will also be posting a link on my Facebook page to our Amazon page in which you can purchase a book that will be sent to the BB library. And that is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Next up, Mr. Weldy.
All right. From the Forestdale School, on March 12th at 6:30 p.m. in the library will be a meeting of the Forestdale School Council and stakeholders meeting, as well as a family fun night sponsored by the Forestdale PTO on Friday, March 20th at 6 p.m. Also want to give a special thank you to the Forestdale School for hosting Read Across America Day today. I think it was, I know I went down, the chairman was there as well. We got a chance to read to a couple different classes. I think I was trying to do the math with Mr. Concanon and Mrs. Carpenito. I think it's my 17th year going to the Forestdale School for this, and it's nice that they continue to do this for kids, not just in K-4, it goes all the way up every year, and it was a great day. So thank you to Mr. Concanon, Mrs. Carpenito, Mrs. McCarthy, the literacy coach, and the PTO who helped put this together. From the Salemwood School, third quarter progress reports going home Wednesday, March 4th. The Title I Family Game Night, Wednesday, March 11th at 6 p.m. Again, a reminder, no school Friday, March 13th due to Professional Development Day. Friday the 13th. Grade 6 Nature's Classroom. They're going from Tuesday, March 24th to Friday, March 27th. Another Title I Cyber Safety Workshop for families, Tuesday, March 24th, 6 p.m. in the auditorium. The Jimmy Plunkett event at Anthony's, which will be a big fundraiser for them, so we should all try to attend, is coming up Friday, March 27th at 7 p.m. Tickets are currently on sale. And last but not least, the Stop the Stigma Day, which I believe all of our schools will be participating in, is coming up on Friday, April 3rd. Thank you for those updates from the Forestdale from the Salemwood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had neglected to mention that starting on Monday, March the 16th, the Malden Kiwanis will once again be doing its reading to the kindergarten students of the city of Malden. We do that 3 times per year. It's one of the regular items that we collect money for, that we fund. And each time that we read, and we read 3 times per year, each of the kindergarten youngsters get to select a book to take home that's their very own. So you will be contacted.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Iavino. Motion to go into executive. Oh, 1 second here. Mr. Gray?
Oh, just a quick update. I'd just like to let everyone know that I host regular office hours about once a month. I have one coming up this upcoming Wednesday, March 10th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the In-N-Out Convenience Store on Lebanon Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. We'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations and an update on pending litigation. Motion by Mr. Iavino, seconded by Mr. Froyle. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Runner? Yes. Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Drummond?
Yes.
Mr. Freud?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spatafor?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes. Okay, we'll now go into executive session. We will then return where we may or may not take further action and then move adjournment. Yeah, need the money. All right, school committee's back in session. Once more, our aim will be to meet next Tuesday, March 10th, 6 p.m. here at the Senior Center. In the meantime, we'll entertain any motions. Mr. Iavino.
I'd like to make a motion, sir, regarding the adjustments for the principal's salaries. And my motion is as follows. Retro to July 1, 2019, there was a 4% increase. And on July 1st, 2021, there'll be a 3% increase. On July 1st, 2021, there'll be a 2% increase. And for those principals in their final year of work, and before they retire, they will be allowed to buy back 10 vacation days at the per diem rate.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Weldy. Any questions on that? So again, Mr. Iavino, they're one of the few that we have not adjusted this year, the principals.
That's correct.
So they have not been adjusted since July 1st.
That's correct.
In 2019.
That's correct.
All right. Any questions? If not, let's have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Welker? Yes. Ms. Luo? Yes. Mr. Drummond?
Yes.
Mr. Toyo?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes. Any other business? We'll entertain a motion to...
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Iavino, seconded by Ms. Spatafora. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.